What's up, everybody? It's Christian.
And Molly.
And this is The Move,
where we help you and encourage you to move forward in every area of your life.
Come on now, let's jump into it. Let's move on 3. 1, 2, 3. Come on, we're back, baby.
We're back.
I'm back.
He's back.
Where's my good speed? Where's my good mode?
Always changing the light colors if you're not listening or watching on YouTube. Oh my gosh. Well, guys, welcome to the Move Podcast, or welcome back if you've been here before. We're so glad that you have taken the time to click on this episode, click on this YouTube video, wherever you are watching or listening. We just thank you. And we have to take a moment to welcome back Christian.
Behold.
He is back.
Behold. Take it all in.
Christian was, if you have listened to the last episode, which was actually 2 weeks ago, and we'll get into all that in a minute. But if you listened to the last episode, you realized Christian was not on it. It was me and my really awesome friend, Kylie. If you've not listened to it, you need to check it out because she fulfilled her childhood dream, which only 10% of people do that, which is just crazy. Her childhood dream since she was 8 years old, she fulfilled it at age 25, guys.
How awesome is that? Can
Amazing.
we give her a round of applause?
Yes,
She's so
Kylie.
good.
Yes, Kylie.
We're still new to the whole Zoom podcasting thing.
Yeah.
So, but we're getting better, and thank you, Kylie, for kind of being a guinea pig. She is a rock star.
And she gave
thankful
so
for you.
much. If you haven't listened to it, I'm not going to stop bragging on it because she gave so much great pieces of wisdom and encouragement for those who still feel like they're chasing their dream, or maybe they feel like their dream is so far off in the distance. She gave such practical advice. So definitely go listen to it.
Go listen to it. Go listen to it. Also, if this is your very first time listening to The Move, we want to welcome you. For all of you that are back, we want to say thank you for being back with us. Make sure you guys subscribe. And just every single Wednesday, we have a new podcast that comes out. We're The Move Podcast, meant to help each and every one of you move forward in your relationship with Christ. Whether you're just at the beginning of the journey, or if you've been doing this your whole life, walking with Jesus. You know, sometimes it gets easier, sometimes it gets harder. And if you're like me, I know that I need some help along the way. So that's why we're here. That's why we do this. But let's jump into it. What is our topic for the day?
Well, first of all, I just noticed you cleaned up your facial hair. You got like a goatee action thing.
And if you're watching on YouTube, I'm sitting in a different seat
we
today.
switched spots.
Because this is a bad side. Have you ever had a zit or something, and then you pick at it the night before, and then you wake up and it's like, yeah, that's how it is today. So I'm sitting right here.
We're human, guys.
You see my good side?
Anyway, like Christian said, so first of all, we missed you guys last week. We did not have an episode go out last Wednesday because we thought about
we were in Mexico.
We thought about pre-recording. We thought about doing a recording from Mexico, but I think what it boiled down to is we both just needed the rest and the time together.
We did, and it was great.
We just unplugged completely. Like there was a day when we were in Mexico where Christian didn't look at his phone for over 24 hours, and I would go 5-6 hours without looking at my phone, and it was so nice, so refreshing.
Yes.
So we were in Mexico last week in the Cancun area
for our 4th year marriage anniversary. Come on, somebody.
Our wedding anniversary. Yes. And so we got so much great time just chatting and talking about just our past, our dating past, the past couple years of marriage, and also looking forward to the future and what we want for our marriage and for our lives in the future.
So good.
And so we just got to talking about this, and we were like, we're going to do an episode on 4 things that we've learned in 4 years of marriage.
That's so good. And she's going to kind of steer the conversation. I'm just going to come in with my random thoughts like you guys all know that I like to do. And I'm going to just start off with, why don't we just give them a quick little 5-minute or less update on what we did on our trip and how it was.
Sure.
Okay, so just real quick, because I know you guys want to get to the meat of the podcast, but this is fun too. So we went to Mexico for our 4th year anniversary, and as you know, this is COVID season, right?
Yep.
We are in a big old pandemic.
Yep.
So we were kind of worried, freaked out. We actually booked this.
We risked it. We YOLO'd it.
We risked it for the biscuit.
Yeah, we did.
And we booked it back in May.
June. But yeah,
June.
Beginning of June.
I mean, but like this is the heart of the pandemic, right? We booked it right there, so we got a crazy.
The deals were just insane.
Like 60% off, and so flights to Cancun. Let's be transparent with you. So flights to Cancun, we got our flights, first class, free bags, everything. How much were those flights?
I don't remember the flights, but the reason. Let me just preface with this.
It was literally like $50
know.
more to do first
Yeah,
class.
when we counted or when we tallied up like the bags, the bag fees, like all that kind of stuff on top of like economy seats.
Yep.
It was only going to be like $150 less than first class, which includes the bags and you get food, you get drinks, all that stuff. So
it was totally worth it.
It was worth
so
it.
we flew first class. It was awesome.
We splurged $150 for a first class ticket, which we have never done ever.
So we felt bougie, and we're sitting there, and I have my iPad Pro, so I'm sitting there with my iPad Pro. Everyone walking in, I'm like, "Hello, peasants, go to the back." Okay.
And on the way there, we were in the very first seat. We were in seat 1A and 1B.
1A and 1B.
And at one point,
he said, "Can I get you something?" And I said, "Yes, you can."
And at one point, I looked around of the other people in first class, and I looked at Christian. I said, "Let's play a game. Which of these doesn't belong?"
Yeah, and I had to get on her because that's terrible mindset there. Like, we belong here.
I mean, just everyone else was like, I don't know, retired, like totally enjoying their retirement. Bougie.
The Bose wireless headphones. Anyway, so we get to Mexico, and I'm kind of worried. I'm like, oh my God, I don't want to get stolen by the cartel while I'm here. And so
stolen. You would be very hard to steal.
Yeah, but they could do it. And so we land, and it's an hour to the hotel. Long story short, we get there safely, and I'll just say this was actually smoother than most trips that we take to Mexico because the airport wasn't packed. We're kind of used to the mask thing by now, and it was super, super easy. Mexico and United States, they made it super easy. The hotel was crazy awesome. We stayed in the Riviera Maya
area,
next to Akumal and Tulum. So the Aztec Mayan temples, we were right there.
And we were on the Akumal Bay.
Yeah.
And I don't really know if it was like an actual bay, but it was a cove.
It was a cove.
And so it was so cool and calm and crystal clear because it was kind of secluded.
Imagining it now.
Me too. Let's just think about it for a minute. Close our eyes.
Hold on. Would you look at that?
It was beautiful. And heading up to the trip or leading up to the trip, we kept checking the weather, and we were so nervous that it was going to rain the whole time because the weather apps, all of them, we had several. We checked several. They were all saying like 40, 50, 60% of rain every single day.
Like 80%. We get there, blue skies.
We prayed before.
We did pray. We get
I
there.
was like, God, I really want sunshine.
Blue skies, beautiful. And Akumal Bay is known for its sea turtles. So it's a sea turtle sanctuary. And so we go snorkeling. We're like, let's go see these sea turtles. Little did we know. And the host or whatever, guy who gave us our scuba gear.
The guy at the little shack.
Or the snorkel gear. He didn't tell us that we're not supposed to go buy the buoys, which there's like 4 sets of buoys.
I know, it was really confusing.
It was really confusing. So we go, and we hear the siren go off, and we're like, oh, someone must be doing something wrong.
We both just I just see both of our heads just like pop out of the water, and we're like
a sea turtle.
What?
Yes. And so we get there, and they're like, there's a coral reef out there. And now I feel so bad, and I get real convicted about when I do things with nature. And I was like standing on the coral reef. It was just, but you're not supposed to stand on the coral reef. You live and you learn. Hey, listen, it was an all-inclusive resort, and I didn't gain too much weight. But here's a picture.
I haven't even checked.
My appetizer. I think this is funny. We can show this in the YouTube. Here's a picture of my appetizer. I ordered 2 orders of quesadillas, a calamari, guacamole, and there was like 5 or 6 plates that I'm holding.
Oh, enchiladas.
Enchiladas. So
that was he goes, I ordered an appetizer. I was sitting on the balcony, and he comes out and goes, hey, I ordered an appetizer. I go, oh, what'd you order? He lists those 5 things. I was like, oh, okay.
So I mean, that's honestly the best part. We just got to relax, and then we went on a romantic dinner
on the beach,
and that was so much fun. And that's where we got to talk about marriage. So hey, listen, if you're wondering, should I go on a vacation to Mexico, and maybe you're scared, hey, I would just say do it, because the prices right now are crazy. Mexico's economy is
they need it,
largely dependent, especially that area is dependent on traveling and tourism. So man, go do it. Go help them out. And the airlines need it, so go help them out. And
Let's
we
get
love
this.
it.
Let's get this country up and running again, people.
Let's do it,
do it. Let's
baby.
do our
Let's
part.
do it.
Okay,
Let's jump into it.
Before
Come on,
we
let's
jump
do it.
into it, I do want to preface this episode with this. It is about marriage.
It is.
But you don't have to be married to take away from this. If you're in high school and you're like, marriage seems so far off, you can still learn something from this or be encouraged by this. And if you're dating someone and not married, hopefully you can learn something from this too. If you're married, hopefully you can take something to encourage your life with this as well. And of course, we've been married for 4 years. We are not experts. We never will be. But we do love each other. We care about each other.
It's been easy.
We protect our covenant. And we just hope that this blesses you in some kind of way.
People always told me about the horror stories that the first, few years of your marriage has to be terrible. It doesn't have to be terrible.
Doesn't have to be terrible.
And for us, it's been great. Yeah, there's been like bumps in the road, but I mean, it's been great. It's been easy. Life has been good. And I feel like when we walk with the Lord, he finds a way to make it great for you. It doesn't have to be the struggle, barely scoot by. We're struggling financially and all this, and we hate each other. And by year 5, it's all good. No, we enjoy it.
And God's not mediocre either. Like, you can have an amazing marriage. It doesn't have to just be a mediocre marriage where you're just kind of living day to day, almost like roommates and have kids. Like, that's not what your marriage has to be. It can be more than that. So we're going to jump into 4 things that we have learned in 4 years of marriage. And reminder, this is for everyone.
Here we go. Number 1 is...
You want to take it? You want me to take it?
Let's do every other. So, Number 1, honor each other no matter what.
No matter what.
That is huge. I'm of the idea and biblical just example. I look at so many Bible examples of honor. And to me, they say respect is never given, it's earned. I don't feel that way about honor. Honor by godly people should be given at all times. Honor.
Even when they don't deserve it.
Yes, my parents say it all the time. Honor up, honor down, honor all around. So no matter where you fall in the hierarchy of life or your job or even in the ministry or in your marriage,
or in family.
Yes, no matter what's going on, it's so important to honor. I mean, we look at examples in the Bible where David honored Saul, and when Saul was a terrible king, he was a jealous king. He tried to kill David, and David just continued to love him. He continued to pray for him. He continued to actually spare Saul's life. And what happened? David was blessed for it. And so in our marriage, I think it's so important to not just publicly, which I want to hit on that in a minute, but not just publicly, but privately, to honor your spouse no matter what. We're all broken people, but if Jesus can honor people when they don't deserve it, when there's so many examples in the Bible of honoring people in spite of their flaws, I mean, we need to do that for our spouse.
Definitely.
Right?
Definitely. And I think one of the biggest things I've learned is honor, obviously, like you said, in public and in private. And honestly, I feel like the private thing is easy to do.
It's easy to do.
It's easy to do because it's just the two of you. But where I've really learned over the last 4 years is even if you try to make a joke. I'm trying to figure out how exactly I want to word this.
We're talking publicly.
Publicly, yes.
Don't make a joke at your spouse's expense.
Yes. And it could even be like I did something a few months ago where we were trying to figure out where we were going to go to lunch after church. And someone said, we mentioned this barbecue place. And someone said, have you ever, what all do they have? And Christian was like, well, it's barbecue, but I know they have more than barbecue. And I said, jokingly, I was like, Christian, you haven't been there. You don't know.
Yeah, when you correct your spouse in front of someone else.
And everyone laughed.
Oh, my God. As a man, I hate that. I could be wrong, but there's a different way to go about that.
There definitely is. And everyone laughed. And and he knows my heart wasn't to make him look stupid, but I made him look stupid.
Yeah.
And so even in those situations, whether it's something so simple like that, or if it's a conversation that comes up within another conversation and you kind of start like picking at each other, like, well, you don't do that or whatever, those under the breath conversations.
Yes.
Save those for home, because that means you are dishonoring each other in front of other people.
Totally.
And with that specific barbecue restaurant situation, like I said, Christian knew that I was kidding. He knew that I didn't intentionally do that. But then later, real nice, real gracefully, he said, "Hey, remember when you said that earlier?" And I said, "Yeah." And I immediately knew. I go, "Yeah, I know. I shouldn't have said that."
And
he goes,
you know.
"Yeah, exactly." And he goes, "Yeah, it just makes me, feel dumb or whatever, or makes me look dumb or whatever," he said. And that's the perfect example. And I see couples do this
all the time.
All the time. Like, let's stop doing that.
Yes. And
stop.
Just so you know, if you do that in front of other people, and when it gets weird, man, like it makes the other people that you're with feel so uncomfortable and so awkward when the couple that you're with starts like arguing or under their breath, or if they're like even play arguing. Like, that's just not fun to be around.
Yeah.
It's just kind of like, oh no, this is weird. Like, just stop. I think it's cool when couples don't just honor each other, and you know that old couple that you see in church all the time, and they just love each other.
Make your heart happy.
But they go the extra mile of not just honoring each other, but uplifting each other to other people.
Definitely.
Like, Molly doesn't even have to be around. And I was just bragging myself here, I guess. But like, Molly doesn't have to be around for me to go tell, somebody, man, Molly's the best. I'll see Molly doing something at River Kids, or she's just the best. And I know she does that about me too. And when I see older couples, specifically older couples, because they do it more than younger couples.
They do.
If we're going to be completely honest. When I see them do it, it's so inspiring. It makes me feel excited about marriage. I'm just like, I want to be that. No one wants to be like the couple that play argues with each other. Why? Because it's awkward and it's dishonoring.
Even if you're not play arguing or doing the under the breath thing, I hope y'all know what we're saying when we say the under the breath, like, you shouldn't have said that, or that's what we mean.
You don't
even in this situation that I brought up, Christian saying it makes people feel weird. In that specific situation, no, I don't think anyone caught on to it, but the point is Christian did.
Yeah.
And that's what matters, is that Christian caught on to that, and that's how it made. And I knew as soon as I said it, I was like, oop. Shouldn't have said shouldn't have said that. And then on the flip side of that, that's dishonor, right? But also honor. I have a big piece of advice I learned, or just something I learned a long time ago, and I've really been trying to live this out, is if you think something about someone, tell them.
Good things.
Good things. Yeah. Good things.
Good things.
If, like Christian said, if he sees me doing something, in his head, he's like, oh, that's so awesome that she's taking care of that. She's working, ahead of.
Compliment your spouse.
She's working ahead or whatever. She's setting this up for success. Or if you see that in the moment, say something, especially if other people are around, but also if no one else is around, because it's not for everyone. It's for your spouse.
Totally.
Honor and dishonor is strictly for and from the spouse, right?
Yeah.
So it's for that, not for other people. Focus on that.
Love that.
Honor no matter what.
Honor no matter what. The second one is, I'll just read this one, is the grass is greener where you water it. And you say that all the time, so why don't you start off? What do you mean by the grass is greener where you water it?
So this is a phrase a lot of people, I'm sure you've heard it in some point of your life in some way. But I think this is with this specific phrase, when I think about marriage and when I think about our marriage in the past 4 years, I think a lot of people say, oh, the grass is greener. It isn't always greener on the other side, right? It's greener where you water it. And I think people think about this from a very broad perspective, in the sense that, my relationship is so like maybe that relationship is really, really great, and I would like to be in a relationship with that person, or I would really like that job or whatever. It's like a whole different situation. It's a whole different relationship, a whole different season, right? But I think we need to scale this down and really focus in and hone in on the details, because this could be more in the sense of, this is how I see it, more in the sense of it's greener where you water it, right? A lot of people say, oh, just water your relationship. Well, what does that look like?
What does that even mean?
What are the parts of your relationship that need to be watered? Sometimes I may think like, oh, he seems to be so intentional with his wife or whatever. And I have to stop and think to myself, and we've briefly touched on this in a previous episode about relationships. I have to stop and think to myself, well, am I being intentional to Christian? Am I going out of my way to give him his love language, which is words of affirmation? And honestly, we need to retake that test, because I think you might be gifts now too. Mm-hmm. Anyway.
I just think it's also extremely important to understand that it doesn't happen overnight.
Yes.
The great relationships that you've seen, I mean, like our relationship, I would say is a phenomenal relationship and a great marriage. But man, the struggles have been there. And there's a time where you plant seed, and there's a time of waiting, and there's a time of harvest. Mm-hmm. But during that waiting season is where you water that seed. Yeah. And it's just so important that you don't grass doesn't grow just instantaneously. Your relationship won't just grow instantaneously. It takes intense prayer, being intentional with one another, preferring one another. So let's just nail down a couple things is how do we water our relationship? Yeah. Now, I would say, first of all, in order to water the grass and water the relationship, you got to focus on where it's hurting.
Like, if you think about our grass, right? Like we live in Texas, and so it is hot, and you have to water that thing every single day. Yep. But if you think about it, when it hasn't been watered, what happens?
It gets brown. Or certain areas that you do water. It's great.
It gets crispy, right? It gets crispy. It gets a little brown. And a lot of times it gets brown and crispy in patches. Yeah. It's usually not the entire yard at once, right? Yep. It's a little bit here, a little bit there. So take time. Where is it crispy? Where is it dull? Where is it brown? Where are those patches in your grass, in your marriage, in your life? And take time and water those.
Yeah. I mean, some areas that may get crispy before others might be your prayer life. Mm-hmm. It might be intentionality. It might be preferring one another, which we're going to get to that in a second. It might be honor. It might be going on date
quality
nights and
time.
Spending that quality time. It might be PG-13. It might be your sexual relationship. We're talking with married couples. Intimacy. There you go. That's a better way to say it. But, there's certain... It doesn't just all get green at one time, people. And then I would just say, don't let it get brown. I mean, don't wait for it to get brown for you to start investing and watering your relationship. While it's good, water it. While it's doing great,
keep watering it.
Keep seeking the Lord and keep loving your spouse. Those things that helped it get green, those things that helped your relationship get great, keep doing that.
Yeah, definitely. And I think what's cool about this too is, like, if we think about our yard, so we recently invested in a sprinkler system, right? But we noticed as we went out of town, I think our sprinkler system was having some issues, and we just thought our grass was fine. We just thought it was fine because we had a sprinkler system. It was going through the motions, right? Every day or every other, whatever the system, I don't know the schedule. It was going off twice a day in the early in the morning. And we thought it was all good because we had this like system put into place, right? And then we go out of town and we come back and we're like, hold up. This grass needs some help, needs some love, some TLC. And sometimes we think we're doing good. We're just like in autopilot. We've got this system put into play. We wake up, we do this, we do that, we go to work, we come home, wife cleans, wife cooks, husband cleans, whatever your life looks like. You're just on autopilot, and it's just like going through the motions, and you think you're good because it's been working.
Yes.
But then one day, like you're saying, you lose the intentionality. You kind of like, wait, there's a little patchy over there. There's a little patch over there. So the grass is greener where you water it.
That's so good. So good. So honor each other at all times, no matter what the cost. The grass is greener where you water it. And pray for your spouse even when you think they don't need it.
This one was a really big one for me because, Christian is a man of faith. He has a heart for God, and he can lead himself. And that's great. That's what we should all be doing. We should all be leading ourselves, and first and foremost. And then, but on the flip side, so a lot of times I'm like, oh, he's good, you know. But then situations like about a year ago come up, and that we've shared that in a recent episode, like 3 or 4 episodes back. So go listen to that if you haven't listened to that, where I kind of woke up one day and I was like, holy cow, he's like struggling. Like, and I haven't been praying for him. I haven't been checking in with him, you know. And so part of me felt guilty a little bit because I felt like I hadn't been doing my part as a wife. I hadn't been like holding him up like he holds me up, you know, whatever. And so even when you think that they're all good, just keep praying. Don't ever cease praying for your spouse, because the enemy comes to steal, kill, and destroy, and things happen in life. This has been a crazy year, 2020. You don't know what's going to happen. So stay prayed up. Stay covering your spouse, covering your family, their heart, their mind, their eyes. Those are some things that I pray for you about. So just don't ever let up on that.
Prayer is so powerful, and I would just want every single one of you to understand it. You know, what you can't fix physically in your body, the Spirit can, and God can. I mean, we try to fix so many things in our relationships, and I feel like that's where so many of us in our marriage, we grow weary, we grow tired, we get frustrated, and quite frankly, we give up because we think we can fix it. When all honesty, God is the one that makes a marriage work. Yeah. Jesus is the only one that makes a marriage, that makes a marriage actually work. And so I would just want to encourage you today is take advantage of the gift of prayer that God has given every single one of you. Because in our sleep, there's been times where I wake up and I went to bed maybe angry, and I wake up and we had prayed the night before, or Molly's been praying for me. I wake up and I just feel refreshed. I feel good. It's because prayer actually works. That situation that we went through in 2019, and the episode is called The Biggest Struggle of 2019. Go listen to it. That would not have been resolved without prayer.
Yeah.
Young Christians, wake up and realize that prayer isn't just a myth, that prayer isn't just something that we do when we go to church. Prayer actually works.
Or like a last resort.
Pray for your spouse. When again, this is a way that you can water that relationship. Just pray all the time. It works, man. Just try it out. Just trust God. Prayer works. So good.
And then the last one.
Yeah, go ahead.
Is prefer each other.
Prefer each other.
So what does this mean?
When we talk about preferring each other, when I said this point to Molly to write it down, I was mainly thinking in my mind, what does Molly like that I do? What does Molly love? And I need to prefer her in those things. So little things around the house that you'll learn to know, and that's one of the beauties of growing in a marriage and finding out what makes that person tick, or what that girl, or what she likes, or what he doesn't like. So things that Molly likes that I do would be putting my dishes in the dishwasher.
Come on, somebody.
Right? Picking up after myself.
Yes.
Grilling out every once in a while, or maybe even just when I sold my PS4. We'll get there in another episode. But putting down that controller and going and watching a movie with Molly, or just going on a walk. That's one that I don't like to do. And the Reedus family knows that. I'm not the biggest walker, but Molly loves walks. So when she asks, or it's even better for me to go out of my way and say, Molly, happily, let's go on a walk. Let's do this. Let's go on a walk. And she knows the things that make me tick and the things that I like, and preferring me in those things. It doesn't always come natural to us.
It usually never does.
Never does.
It's things that you have to look for. And I think a really good point to be made too is when, your spouse asks you to do something, or, I don't know, whatever, or wants you to go do something with them, whatever the case may be, I think it's important to note that, one, you probably already know that they want you to do that, or want you to come with them, or whatever, that the situation is. But so with that being said, your response shouldn't be, ugh, yeah, let's go. Which you coming with me on the walk is already a win. But a double win is if you're like, yeah, let's go. Let's go.
Which I need to work on that.
So like that attitude, that approach, the heart behind it is everything.
It truly is. It truly is. And how does it make you feel whenever like I prefer you in something?
Well, I mean, it just makes me feel, as cliche and cheesy as it sounds, it makes me feel seen. It makes me feel valued. Like, oh, he cares. He wants to be intentional. He wants to water this relationship. He wants to water this marriage in this way, or he's thinking about me.
I think we just discovered something today, and that is if you're looking for a spark in your marriage, go home and be intentional about preferring your spouse. Listen, whether your marriage is good or if your marriage is bad, you know how to prefer your spouse. You know the things that your spouse likes. You know the things that make your spouse tick. So if you want to spark up your marriage, or maybe it's been a struggle, it won't be, especially if you are going through a marital struggle right now, it won't be easy to go home and say, I'm just excited to prefer you today.
Yeah.
But do it anyway.
Do it anyway.
I mean, you push through that threshold and that stronghold of resistance and just prefer. Just do it. And I promise you that will just spark new life into your relationship.
For sure. And it'll make you remember why you fell in love with them. It'll make you remember why you chose to spend your entire life with them. And I was sharing this with Christian right before we started. I heard something the other day. A girl on Instagram was giving marriage advice, and actually it was she was having her parents do it, which was really cool. And her parents, I think, had been married a little over 30 years, which is awesome. And she was saying, or her mom was saying, actually it was her dad, which makes me love it even more. Her dad said his piece of advice was, you married this person for like 90 to 95% of who they are, right? Like, obviously you married 100% of them, but you absolutely most people love like 90 to 95% of someone.
Yes.
And there's like a 5-10% of things that they do that just get on your nerves, because we're human, right? Like, there are things that Christian does that gets on my last nerves, and vice versa. And so when those things arise, we have a choice to choose to focus on that 5 or 10% that's bothering us, that's annoying us, or to focus on the 90 to 95% of why we chose to marry them, what we love about them, the 90 to 95% of things that we love about them. Like, that is a big percentage.
Yes. One of the enemy's biggest ways to destroy marriage is perception. Like you said, there's true. 95% of this person, and that's the reason why you married them, is that you love it. But the enemy will make you focus on the 5%. So, man, just get it. Just pray.
Shift your perspective.
Prayer works. Is pray for a new perspective about your spouse, and then go home and be intentional about it.
Yeah.
And so all these topics that we've talked about today, they all coincide with one another, whether it's honoring or praying or preferring. All of these things come together to form this beautiful, flourishing marriage that you can have. Although there will be struggles and there will be times where, man, sometimes you may even feel like giving up, but just don't give up. Stay in it. Your marriage will only be successful, I'm telling you, if you would just seek God and pray and just seek Him. So those are our 4 ways that you can improve your marriage, and that we have learned to actually improve ours.
Yeah, so, and we're obviously, we're speaking to ourselves as well too. Like I said, we're not perfect. These are things that we've learned, but we're still not perfect at them. So we're learning every single day, and we're officially I just realized this, we're officially in year 5 of our marriage. That is crazy. So I'm excited about the years to come. We got a really good time dreaming together in Mexico. And hey, that's another thing I encourage you guys to do. This is something that Christian really pulls out of me. If you guys have been listening to The Move for a while now, you'll know that I'm definitely more of the realist, the logistical person, the reality person. And Christian is like, let's dream bigger, further, deeper, wider, all the things. Why not? He has the mindset of why not?
Yep.
Why can't God do that? And so he pulls that out of me, and I love that about him. And it makes me better, and it makes us better. It makes our marriage better, which obviously overflows into every other area of our life.
Yeah. So dream big, and we've done some episodes on that as well. But just, hey, we love you guys. We know that if you are married, that I pray and hope that you would go home and implement this. If you're listening to this with your spouse, just why don't you turn to them like we do in church? Just tell them that you love them, all right? And if you're listening to this and maybe you're single, just use this as a way to push you forward as you go and just pray that God would reveal the one to you. And now now you're ahead of the game, ahead of the curve on where to start in your marriage.
Yes.
So, hey, make sure you guys go sub to the Move podcast. We're on Spotify. We're on Apple Podcasts. We
Wherever you listen to your podcast, we're there.
We're there, so we appreciate it. Hey guys, have a great week. Go home and be intentional with your spouse. Let's move on 3. 1, 2, 3. Move.